We are waiting for our next panelist. Dean Bledsoe, you are welcome to join the stage. And in fact, while we're at it, just to slow down these transitions a tiny bit, Sheriff Gonzalez, you can share your audio and video as well, and whoever gets into the queue first will be our next questioner. Here is Dean Bledsoe, and I will leave the questioning to you. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. I was very impressed with both of you. Let me first ask Mohammed, I've heard your explanation in reference to why you would change the nature of where the funding goes. But isn't it true, I think, as you just had a discussion, that you don't move one violence from one area, you're simply moving in your proposal violence in the community from being perpetrated by one group to greater violence being perpetrated by another group if you actually remove police, because in the communities that you're talking about, they need more police protection. So wouldn't it be a better idea to actually propose that we how the individuals are trained and who the people are that are selected to be police officers, rather than cutting the funding, because will take away monies and other things that are very important from police officers that have earned their jobs for many years, and they depend upon those. But yours would actually eliminate their jobs, put them out into the workplace, and undermine their families and their ability to actually to be earning members of their families and take care of the financial obligations that they might have. So wouldn't it make more sense if one would simply start looking at the situation and not kick the baby out with the bathwater?
Thank you, Dean. I think for this, there's two answers here. The first is about the community, and the second is what happens to the police officers. So firstly, with the community, I think the problem is currently we're over-policing, especially marginalized communities that were that you're talking about in your question. I think when the over-patrolling happens, there's a sense of there's a misguided sense of security by police cars going around every 10 minutes. Then we think that we actually need them. What we'll find probably is that the overwhelming majority of cases where there's violent encounters between police, especially in those communities, are either escalated by police or the police didn't need to be there in the first place. So I think, again, we don't cut into the budget of police to respond to crime in those communities. They're still there. The department is still there. The department is still able to function perfectly, even arguably more efficiently now that they're only focused on this. But also the security that these people would feel in those communities, I think would actually increase. We can improve community relations once they can expect police to be on their side and not against them. The second thing is regarding the police losing their jobs. I think some important things to note is, one, as I've already said, there's a lot of waste in the current system, which means the police are doing things outside the purview of strictly policing. Even with the reallocation of funds, there's probably not going to be a huge exodus of officers out of police departments. But if there is a significant layoff anywhere in any police department, I think what happens is either two things. Either they move into the private sector, into security or the military, or even federal enforcement, or they take on other community roles. Or the other possibility, which I think both things can happen at once, is there are a lot of people going into the police force when they initially wanted to go into social work or mental health or education, simply because those areas aren't as appealing, because again, the pay is almost non-existent due to a lack of funding. So I think once we implement this, more funding in those areas, a lot of people that initially went into the police, even though they had a passion for something else, will find that job appealing and will transition to it. So I think in the end, the police officers that may be laid off, if there are any, find other jobs they're passionate about or move into the private sector, and the communities themselves aren't affected in terms of police presence or safety.
Okay, thank you. Amaya, now for you, I would ask you to think about your argument, because it appears to me that you're arguing positions that people who are antagonistic to the minority community actually support. So do you think it is ironic, and does it undermine the effectiveness of your position to say that the people who are in support of the police and who are always criticizing the minority community are the ones that actually believe that if you put more money into the police department, that would be a better situation. And the second part of that question is that if you propose it or you implement your proposal, wouldn't it be more likely that a small component of a mental health unit or something being integrated into a larger military organization that has a corrupted culture will simply be enveloped within that culture and not be able to effectively do the work that you say that you want it to do?
Thanks for the question. So for the first part, regardless of the viewpoint or the people who support like the police force in general who want to increase funding, half the time it's increasing funding for like weaponization and things like that. When I want to invest in is the education and implementation of social workers on field during these times. And that's what we're investing. No, I'm investing specifically for the education and training of police officers, while also migrating in there, having social workers and such on scene. Now, to the second part of your question, it was similar to the question Muhammad asked as far as like how do we know that these people that come into the police, like the police won't get into the culture that they are in as well. And so I just want to make it clear that if a police officer goes into the police force, they're going in to be a police officer, and that is their viewpoint on things. Now, if a social worker goes into the same path, they're wanting to be a social worker. They're not wanting to do the harms that maybe police officers may want to have in this world that you talk about. And so that's the main that's the really big like idea of this, is that we're going to have different people from different backgrounds come together to solve a problem, instead of having a group of people that come from the same viewpoint together in solving these issues.